Macedonia to the 50th, and this is a video response to the 16-bit brothers video on collecting goals. So, I mean, technically the first machine I'd really, what I'd consider really collecting for was Sega Megadrive. It was the first console that was technically mine, and all the games I had as a child I've kept over the years and I've still got. And I used to collect a lot of games for it. Especially when the PS1 came around, I was still buying Megadrive games because lots of shops by then was literally just trying to get rid of them. They're selling for not much at all. And still to this day, I still think the Megadrive, the 16-bit was better than the 32-bit, but the games just aged better. Even at the time, I thought a lot of 3D games was pretty unimpressive. The only ones I actually really liked at the time, stuff like Crash Bandicoot, which is technically a 2D game, just in a 3D perspective. And games like Tekken, and they were fighting games, so that were a bit different. There were less fiddly controls and stuff from them, but yeah, most of my favourite PS1 games was actually 2D games, and most used sprites, and didn't look much different than actual Mega Drive stuff. Well, anyway, so yeah, a lot of the stuff I got when the PS1 was around, and by the time the PS2 came around, Mega Drive games are getting rarer to find in stores, but when you did find them, it usually wasn't very expensive, even for some of the slightly valuable stuff. There wasn't that pricey at the time. It's just there wasn't as big market, as ridiculous this rip-off eBay market like these now. I don't, outside of, I think, well, technically I know the most expensive Mega Drive I ever bought was probably when it was brand new with Sonic 3. You know, that was like 60 quid back then, which is more than 60 quid in today's currency. Well, that's because all the extra chips and all even memory and other junk inside it made it more expensive than other ones. It wasn't just Sega just being completely greedy at the time, but yeah. And after that, pretty much by the time the PS1 came along, I don't think I was spending more than £10 on Mega Drive games, and I'm usually talking about box ones here that was usually mostly complete instruction books. And yeah, collecting just like crazy. I've actually got over 100 Mega Drive games now. I only tried to get games I liked, so perhaps I'm using these strange memories around collecting for it as well. Like, I remember going to Leeds Market one day when the PS2 were out, the Sega Classic Collection, like, you know, the one with the 3D Ages remake. So we got Fantasy Zone, and the exact same day at a market stall for about 5 quid I got a complete box copy of Super Fantasy Zone for the Mega Drive. I mean, you could still find these games in the market then. It wasn't just a wave of PS2 games that no one wanted and all that. And the last ever Mega Drive, I actually gave up collecting Mega Drive games before they started to go ridiculous in price because I nearly had every game I wanted. And that was in 2009, when the last real bunch of Mega Drive games I bought was at Cash Converters of all places, because it must have been around September 2009, I think, when they just had a big massive Mega CD Model 1, Mega Drive Model 1 and a 32X, and they were asking, what were it? £100 for it, and that sounds like a lot, but and I didn't know what games it came with. It's just £100 with something like 30 games, but so I didn't know what I was going to get with it. I could see some of the games in the thing, but I couldn't see all of them. I had to get my brother actually to help me take it home, even though the place is about 20 minutes walking distance. Why is the lightest thing in the world? Obviously, you've got 3 game systems technically in a bag, and yeah, there was all the games were in perfect quality condition as well. I mean, really well looked after games. Some even had the original price stickers on them. Which is something you'll notice in all my videos I do collection. I never remove price stickers off things, I just leave them on. I just think it's part of the game in my strange kind of way. But yeah, I don't think they knew what they were selling when they sold that, because they were like pretty much 100% perfect conditions, all the Sonic games in there. All the main ones, Sonic Spinball, and some other stuff which I don't think I knew that was worth much. Like, there weren't many 32X games, I can tell you that. And Mortal Kombat 2 didn't have a box, it was just in the box for Doom. And the only one game that was literally unplayable was, well, the Sega Menacer game, the 16-1 one, because you need the Sega Menacer, and, well, it didn't come with a Sega Menacer, so I was not much use that one, but other games it came, we got a second copy of Kyo's Flying Squadron, the Mega CD. I think that game's pretty valuable. It's actually a really good game as well. It's pretty much the closest you got on the Sega systems at the time to games like Parodius. So if you like Parodius, you'd probably like that game. But yeah, it costs you a lot of money to get a real copy of the game. You also had the Konami Justifier gun, and the Mega CD version of Lethal Enforcers as Snatcher. And I know them games probably alone are worth about... Snatcher's probably alone these days. I don't know, back then it's worth probably of like 50, probably like 40 or 50 quid alone. And if you got it with a gun, probably even more. So I don't think, yeah, Cash Converters didn't know what they were selling for. It's kind of funny because a few months later I actually saw. So yeah, what am I talking about? I actually saw, I'm selling a model with even less games that were much more common for nearly the same price. So I don't think they knew what they were doing in that shop with their older games. But yeah, and this goes into the final game that I technically really bought for the 32-bit Sega systems. When it comes to Kage game, it would have been Space Harrier for the 32X, which is still, to me, the best game I own for the 32X. Which in a way is sort of sad because it's the very first, because the game was 9 years old at the time when the game was released on the 32X. But yeah, great part of the game. Pretty much almost arcade perfect, I think. You can't get much better than that. So where it gets funny is, I bought the Megadrive collection the exact same day as it. If you don't know, the Megadrive collection on the 360 and PS3's version of that game is absolutely terrible. It's got terribly sped up emulation, and all the character sounds really fast in the game, and he's got a really squeaky voice, and the speed of the game's fine, but the sound effects are just off. I can't believe they allowed it to thing, because that's the thing I wanted most of the game. And the last Mega CD game I ever bought, though it didn't include any structure, but was in a charity shop, or not, and it was Night Trap. I'm not the biggest fan of Night Trap, but since I was only selling it for like £1.50, I wasn't missing it at that price, because that's an incredibly cheap price for the game. It's probably worth more than that, either. It's just nobody mentions Night Trap anymore, but Five Nights at Freddy's is essentially Night Trap. It's just like a really weird version of it. But where it gets hilarious is, what did I buy when I went into town before I got to the charity shop on the way back? Mortal Kombat 9 Complete Edition. So I got Mortal Kombat and Night Trap in the same day. Both the games that caused the age rating system to be created in the first place. I don't know how I managed that, but that's happened. Well, when it comes to I remember the last. I'm pretty sure I remember one of the last PS1 games I got was, hilariously enough, Final Fantasy VII, the original version, not the Platinum version. And I got in a charity shop as well. And I think I paid £1.25 for it, complete, all perfect condition. Yeah, lots of the games I got for the PS1 was all bought in like cash converters and charity shops. Nice if you can find games in them places when had them. I mean, most of the time it's just a crappy sports game no one wants, but I'm sure you know what I mean. So yeah, after about I've given up on collecting Megadrive games. So I had quite a lot of PSP games from multiple regions, and I say multiple regions because when it comes to I've got a collection of a video up on my channel of what I call my favourite PSP games and my least favourite. I'll put a link to it. I'll put a link to it in this video if anyone wants to watch it. So there's that. So yeah, one of the last games I got for the PSP was Death Junior. It's a really early game. I nearly paid like about £2 for it, something used, but no, I've enough. I got the moving on to the next thing with the Wii. I don't know how many Wii games are. I have a few games that would probably be worth more now than what I paid for them, like Oreo Land Shake that I mentioned, because well, it's a Mario game, and you have to be more expect from Mario, but that's just me. But I remember the last Wii game I actually really bought, and this is going to be such a random thing to buy for the last one, was the Mad Dog McCree collection, you know, those FMV light gun games from the Wii remote. Yeah, that was the last game I bought for the Wii, because I'm a fan of light gun shooting games, so yeah, I've got quite a few of them on the Wii. So most of the things I've ever got the Wii to play for. I've not really been buying any games for the 360 as such recently, but I'm not going to say the 360 is out of thing when it comes to collecting things anymore, because still games be made for it, and some of them I still kind of want, so that's that one. The last DS game I never really collect DS games now, but the last one I bought was by pure luck in a charity shop again, and it was a £2. It was a copy of Legends of Kage 2. I got this for multiple reasons. It's quite a decent game as its own. It's not. I don't think it's that common. I've never seen the game very often. Even when I saw it in the shop, I didn't know even there was a Legend of Kage 2. I mean, yeah, it's a sequel to an old, like, early 80s arcade NES game. I mean, odd choice for a sequel to begin with, but yeah, it's a decent game, and it cost me £2. And I also wanted it because I have the Legend of Kage like PSP remake as well. So, and I have all of Taito's other remakes of the games that are released on the on the DS. So I might as well get the last one, even though this one's technically a sequel. But oh well. So the last thing is some weird systems I've got, like the Game Boy. Yeah, I stopped collecting Game Boy games as such. I don't really buy Game Boy Color games or black and white Game Boy games, but I've also got a video on the channel that I linked to here that shows all the Game Boy and Game Boy Color games I actually have all together. If anyone wants to watch that, but you can watch that video if you want to talk. If you want to hear me rant on about Game Boys. It took me a while, but I eventually got a PS3. But I had rules with the PS3. It has to be on a disc, and it has to be a game you can't really buy on other systems or be a better game on than other systems. So, well, most of my PS3 games are PS3 exclusives. Well, some of them technically are beta versions now and stuff, but I'm only counting. I'm calling them PS3 exclusives still. There's one game I essentially got. The set one game. I mean, the last PS3 game I bought was South Park: The Stick of Truth. But it's the thing, I bought when I bought an American copy of the game for a reason. You know, Ubisoft was kind of weird with this game, and Ubisoft censored some of the scenes from the European versions of the game altogether. The only uncensored version in Europe was on Steam. And I couldn't go and just buy the 360 version because Ubisoft were trolls and region locked the 360 American version, so it wouldn't play in European systems, so I had no choice to get the American PS3 one. I don't know why Ubisoft did this, but Ubisoft are a crappy company, so I'm not really surprised. But yep. Then there's other systems. Well, I don't really call it collection systems. I don't collection systems as such, but there's one system that is probably the easiest technically to collect for if you have patience. And I don't know how much it costs money is. You can always try collecting European physical Vita games because there's not surprisingly that many games available. Not all games available physical on the system, so that could be actually, even if you wanted to have a full collection of an entire system, that's one that could definitely be doable in recent time. Probably not cost a small fortune. And the system has some decent games for it, which some of them are exclusive to it, and though for some stupid reason all Sony's exclusive ones, Sony are just literally reporting over to the PS4, so there's that unfortunately as well. But although that could be a plus thing, but as it comes to collecting games, I don't just collect games for the sake of collecting games any way. I mean, some people say, well, you must do when you've got like over 100 Xbox games, 360 games, over 200 PS2 games, but over 100 DS games and like over 50 3DS ones. But here's the thing, I only buy a game if I have some interest in it. That doesn't mean I necessarily try to 100% complete the game, but most games I do buy, I do attempt to complete. Just sometimes I'll buy a few at once and that takes me a while to get to them because some games we don't see them when you just see them at the cheap price, either gulping price, and you just never see them again. I'm sure most people know what I mean there. It's like, but yeah, this video's kind of gone on a lot longer than I expected. So thank you for watching and listening.